So one of the questions people said was, "What do you think of the government shutdown?" Which I I would skip if if that came in as a Retsu Talk topic. I don't think I have that much insight that people could glean.
Alright, so I've read this New York Times opinion piece. Let's see what Darkside Phil has to say.
Yeah, like what? Like, oh, you want to read the news but filtered through Slowbeef on politics? Probably not. And there's probably not a lot of people in the video game circuit that have some perspective that you haven't heard before, you know? Nobody's like, holy shit, I gotta find out what the fuck Northern Lion thinks about the government shutdown, you know?
Is the government shutdown going to impact your video upload rate?
And then the crazy thing is he was getting shit wrong about it. He's like,
oh, that's shocking.
Yeah, it's like, I wish the House of Representatives would just let a bill pass. That would do, and it's like the Senate's not letting it pass. The House of Representatives making the bill, you know?
Right.
But it's like, if you had such little knowledge, why would you take that question?
If you mix sodium with chlorine, you'll get sodium chloride or table salt. And at the levels of aggregation that we are concerned with, we know how much sodium to mix with how much chlorine to produce a certain amount of salt. There's no mystery and there's no ideology involved. All of the elements are known, or at least known well enough, that we can make correct predictions 99% of the time. And so an authoritative structure makes sense for things like this, things that are well known. You look up tables, you look up equations, and it all works for 99.9% of people 99.9% of the time. So then, what caused the rise of the Bolsheviks in the former Russian Empire? Well, let's turn to our tables and equations here, and, well, maybe not. Now, the line between hard and soft science is fuzzy, and it is more of a continuum than a hard break, but the continuum is still there. You cannot understand all of the relevant factors leading up to the U.S. Revolutionary War with the same level of knowledge as you can be aware of the relevant factors leading to a chemical reaction. You cannot know every single relevant fact in regards to a historical event like the U.S. Civil War, French Revolution, Russian Revolution, the formation of Manchukuo and Japan gaining tariff autonomy. Right? And because you cannot know all of the relevant facts, you are heavily dependent on a theory that tries to make sense of these things. You are not so much putting together a puzzle as you are in the hard sciences, but you are inferring a picture from the pieces that are already there, and from correct solutions to similar puzzles in the past, or at least what you think are the correct solutions to similar puzzles in the past. This theory of history and political economy that allows you to infer the rest of the picture is referred to as ideology. Someone who says they don't have ideology is either saying that he's a Superman, and that his knowledge of human events and behavior, past, present, and future, is as complete as our knowledge of physics and chemistry, or more likely he doesn't know what ideology means. And this is why I cringed a little bit when Diabetes held up a New York Times article, or held up the New York Times as though it was some authority. Now granted, they're probably better than Darkside Phil, but this is still problematic. The university is so insidious because it has history classes right next to the physics classes. And this creates the impression in people that there is a science of history in the same way that there is a science of physics and chemistry, when there matter-of-factly is not. They are not analogous at all. The kind of thinking that makes a good physicist won't necessarily make a good historian or a good dictator who has to deal with these things for realsies, because you're dealing with a much greater level of uncertainty. Now, this doesn't mean that a great physicist can't then be a great historian or dictator, but it just means that they're not the same skills. But more importantly, an authoritative institution, such as a school, or a university, or a highly regarded newspaper, aren't going to be as effective at determining truth from falsehood as the same kinds of authorities will be for, say, chemistry or physics. And the downside of authoritative institutions is, as we all know, encrusted dogma. But the problem of encrusted dogma is much worse in a subject such as history or political economy, where ideology is king and there's less of a more certain, complete picture to be formed. What you get is you get inferences from the past that stay in the institutions, they sit there, and they become authoritized. And it is harder to displace previous authorities in history and political economy as it is in physics, because, quite frankly, there's less objectivity in history and political economy. There's much more inference going on. And when you're dealing in a battle, but not between experimental evidence, but a battle between inferences of events, well, authority wins almost every time.